Shawnee Country Club at that time had a slew of good golfers, good competitive golfers. I don't know exactly why, but there sure seemed to be a lot of them right in that little one area. That was a big thrill when you got to caddy for those boys. You got to see some good golf, and you got to make some money at the same time. So that was quite nice. Well, Dillon, very, very competitive golfer. Very competitive, a true athlete. He was a very good baseball player. Matter of fact, he had an option early in his life to play professional ball with the New York Yankees. They were very interested in him, and for whatever reason he didn't elect to go and play pro ball. So I met him at Shawnee Country Club as caddying, and he worked for Goodyear. He was a supervisor, I believe a shift supervisor out the Goodyear Tire and Rubber, and he always was a pleasure to be around and work for. Caddying, always friendly, and quite a comical individual. I liked the way he used to click his heels together when he putted. When he put the ball and it started rolling towards the hole, he'd click his heels together, and I assumed that was to help it find its way into the cup. But anyway, I had the privilege of playing Dillon, and I believe it was the state match, the city match play tournament out the Publix, and he beat me that day. That's the only match we ever played, and he beat me. I believe it was something like 3-2. I believe that's how we ended up. I was hitting the ball real well that day, but I, as usual, couldn't make a putt, and was coming very close, but I couldn't get the ball in the hole. And Glenn beat me, and what can I say? He's a very good golfer, and he went on to win the state in 1957, and the men's state. And also he won the senior men's state, I believe 3 years. I'm not sure what those years are, but an extremely talented individual, and a very pleasurable person to be around. He just was a nice individual. Unfortunately, he passed away here recently, and I was extremely sorry to hear that. Well, Glenn played, seemed to have a standard. He played continuously with Hobbs, Hentzler, and Schoonover, and Bob Hentzler, and that was Bill Hentzler and Bob, and Schoonover, and he seemed to always have a game with them on Wednesday afternoons or Saturday or Sunday. I didn't ever see Dillon practice, maybe once or twice, but not like some of the others to come out during the week, especially Bill Hentzler. He continually coming out and chipped and putted and through the week on his lunch hour, but Glenn still was able to maintain that peak by just playing the minimum amount of golf. Maybe if a tournament was coming up, he'd come out and practice a little bit, play a few extra holes, but as a rule, he just played on those 3 days.
Then we'd go up to St. Joe every year one time and play up there at St. Joe Country Club. You ever played up there?
No.
Great golf course. They got 6 par 5 holes, 6 par 4 holes, and 6 par 3 holes. And a nice golf course. And it's a real fun deal. It really was. Yeah. We had nice times up there, yeah. Your dad and I were in one golf cart, and Hentzler and Dillon were were in back of us, and I'm driving the golf cart, and we're in the rough, and they're in the fairway in back of us. We already hit our second shot because they were further, they were further down the fairway than we were. And anyway, I'm driving down the fairway on the rough side, and I got the steering column there holding on to it, and all of a sudden your dad reaches over and pushes it, pushes the handle, and he said, "The ball's coming right toward us." Dillon hit that ball, it's coming right toward us, and he's pushing on the deal. And I let go of it all of a sudden, and he pushed it clear all the way over. And the cart flipped over, and it threw us both out. I mean, not just tossed, just falling out. It threw us out. It was going over, and it catapulted us both, might be 8 or 10 foot down the fairway. And luckily, the cart went to the right, and we went to the left. And Glenn and Hentzler come pulling up. I said, "It looked like they're flying zucchinis up there." I said, "You guys okay?" And we were luckily both okay, and the golf cart was all bent up and everything, And what happened? I said, "Well, he was pushing on it, and I was holding on to it to keep it going." And then he said the ball was right here, and so I let go. And he went all the way over there, and the wheels turned this way, and it catapulted through the whole thing over there. And we were rolling along the ground there, both of us. We weren't hurt though, but luckily not, because we got got through quite a ways. It caught in the ground, and it just catapulted us out in the fairway there. And those guys were laughing so hard they said they never saw anything funnier than that. Both of us are flying through the air, rolling on the ground.
In 1960, the Kansas State Amateur Tournament was held on the golf course that I grew up on. It was Shawnee Country Club in Topeka. I was 15 years old at the time. Usually caddies run from the age of about 12 years old up to about 17. So I was getting into my twilight years of being a caddy. I wanted to caddy for one of the better golfers. I contacted a person I had caddied for many, many times, a man named Dillon, who had won the state championship a couple years earlier at Topeka Country Club. Now, 2 or 3 years later, in 1960, the Kansas Amateur Golf Tournament was held at Shawnee Country Club. I asked Glenn Dillon if I could caddy for him, and he said yes. And I caddied for him that first round, and he was the medalist, which means he had the lowest score of all the people trying out for the golf tournament. It was amazing growing up in Topeka, Kansas in the late 50s and the early 60s. Again, I would caddy in a fivesome that would include club champions, city champions, and Kansas State, Kansas golfers, and all of them were in this fivesome. And it was amazing that 5 people from Topeka, Kansas were so dominant in the game of golf in the late 50s and early 60s. And I think a large part of that can be attributed to the fact that they played against each other every week, week in and week out, and that honed their skills. So when they played other players in match play, they played very, very well, and they won a lot of golf tournaments. And the players we're talking about is Bill Hentzler and his younger brother Bob Hentzler, and Glenn Dillon, and Harlan Hobbs, and Darrell Schoonover, and others. I'm probably leaving somebody out, but yeah, that was an impressive group, and I caddied for all those players, and I learned a lot of golf tips myself just by being a caddy, carrying their bags. I think that when you look at the different golfers, Probably the names that jump out as far as staying a very, very good golfer over a long, long period of time. In Topeka, Kansas, that had to be Harlan Hobbs, and also Glenn Dillon. Both of them won the Kansas State Amateur Tournament. Glenn Dillon won the city tournament a couple of times. Bill Hentzler won the city a couple of times. Bob Hentzler, also his brother, won it, my uncle, won it, and he was always in the running, if not winning a tournament. And Harlan Hobbs and Glenn Dillon not only won the Kansas State Amateur, they won the Senior Amateur. So they stayed very, very good golfers all through their lives. Glenn Dillon just died this last fall at the age of 95, which you know very well because you've played many, many, many rounds of golf with him.